Hey everybody, Bernie Gallerani. I wanted to bring you another episode of Success is Not Convenient podcast. This is going to be a fun one for me and something I've been working on a little bit and just coaching and training folks in the real estate industry. We always have problems, and a lot of people say, well, I don't like issues, or I don't like problems, and I don't know how anybody gets away from having problems, right? Everyone's going to have problems. As we say, and it's the name of our podcast, is life is never convenient, neither is success, right? So success doesn't just kind of line up as we want it to. It has a set of rules that we have to actually find those set of rules and chase it, putting ourselves in a position where we think about the problem. How do we solve the problem? Instead of dwelling on it and talking about it and letting it fester inside of ourselves, that's not healthy for us either. So I think the main thing for all of us to consider is, how do we move forward when problems arise? And they will. Problems will always come about. Now, of course, I'm entrepreneurial. I own several different companies and businesses in the real estate space, and continuing to keep growing in those areas. And anytime I try something new, there's a lot more obstacles than I ever imagined. And sometimes, and a lot of times, I will sit there and dwell on it. But there's one thing that's important here, is understanding that I can focus on the problem. We can focus on it. You can focus on the problem and spend your energy focusing on why the problem is there, focusing on why is it fair for me that I have this problem? Why couldn't this be easier for me? Why does it have to happen to me this way? And it starts wearing on us, and it starts grinding us down. We get excited in the beginning. We get, we get focused on the goal and the dream, and it gets us, really pumped up. Our endorphins start to go. And then a problem shows up, and you try to solve the problem, and you kind of think you do. And then another problem shows up, and you're like, okay, I gotta get through this. Why can't I get a break? And then, 2 weeks goes by, 3 weeks, another problem shows up, and you're looking at this going, man, I'm just spinning my wheels here, and I'm not really moving forward. But are you? Maybe you really are moving forward, right? Maybe you don't realize you're moving forward because it's not measurable, because you have this thought that says, well, if I do this, this, and this, I can move from point A to point B. But because of all the problems that you didn't anticipate, you quit somewhere in the middle, and you start focusing negatively on you're spending a lot of energy and time on things that really are just part of the equation, right? It's part of the success factor, right? As I've said this on other videos and podcasts before, and that not only is success not convenient, but it certainly shouldn't be easier for you than it is for anyone else. So you have to allow your emotions to get in some sort of check. And the reality to it is, it's going to be a lot harder than most people think. I've said this to folks, and I've heard it before in lots of different things that I've listened to and watched, and that you're going to spend a ton of energy. Let's just call it 50, 60, 70% of your energy just getting the business off the ground, just getting the task to be accomplished, right? You're doing things where you get really excited because you see an opportunity for you to improve your life, your skill, your health, your relationships, or whatever. And as you start off, it doesn't happen as fast as you want it to. You're spending all this energy and all this enthusiasm and all this excitement, and it just isn't taking shape like you had anticipated. It doesn't mean that it doesn't work, and it doesn't mean that you're not going to be successful. It just means that you're dealing with a problem that you didn't expect. You're dealing with spinning wheels, trying to figure out how you get traction. It's like lighting a rocket and seen the rocket jump into space or in the air, and how much fuel it takes just to get it off the ground. Most people don't even understand how much energy it takes to lift a rocket off the ground. But for some reason, we just believe that it should be easier for us, and I just don't think that is true reality. Reality is that if you're going to do something that you don't know how to do, if you're going to sit down and dream big and start a process of something that's brand new to you, it's going to be painful. But your enthusiasm, your excitement, your motivation that you have to accomplish it, regardless of how hard it is what needs to carry you further than you anticipated it to be. And so when you run across these problems, everybody's got problems. Every person has problems. You have problems, I have problems. Whether you own a business, whether you're starting a business, whether you're trying to accomplish something, or whether you're just trying to go through life, problems are always going to be there for everybody. Not one person who breathes air and lives on this great planet and has the blessing to live a fantastic life, whatever that might be for you, has problems that arise day in and day out, or week in or month in or year in regularly, that we have to then deal with it. But I want you to look at it another way. Problems are stretching yourself to be different in your creative thinking, which means that it's actually growing you as a person. If you have a problem and you have to figure out how to solve that problem, then that means you're growing from that situation. So here's a question for you, and that is, are you quitting when you get tested, or are you figuring out a solution to the problem that you have? Are you literally sitting down and going, how do I figure out how to solve this issue so I can then be better at the job or the goal or the task or whatever it is I'm trying to accomplish? See, problems are an indicator that you are on the road to progress. I'm going to repeat this again, as problems are an indicator that you're on a road to progress. What does this mean? This means that you're moving from your daily comfortable box or zone that you live in or life that you live in, and you're moving forward to something different. And when you move towards something unknown and different, things are going to show up that you don't anticipate or that you don't know. And you then have to solve that problem to move forward. Really, how you should look at it is, I'm actually growing as a person. I'm learning something new. I know of a way maybe I tried it and it didn't work. So it's not telling me it doesn't work. It's just telling me that the combination that I have been driving towards through an obstacle, and that I just need to change course, right? I like using this one because it's a really easy one and a stupid one at the same time. But it's kind of like driving a car. And a really good mentor friend of mine in California shared this one with me, and I thought it was a really powerful message. And he said, when you're in a car and you're driving it and you're going just down to the grocery store, or you're going to work, or you're going to the gym, or whatever it might be, you have to have that steering wheel in your hand. And every couple of seconds, you're making some sort of a correction. You're veering to the right, you're veering to the left, you're going straight, you're going a little bit too fast, you got to turn right, you got to turn left, you got to make a U-turn, or whatever it is. But yet we drive every single day, but we don't even think about all the thousands of corrections that we're making on a daily basis just to live our life. We don't get frustrated over it. We just make a natural correction. We turn right, we turn left, we miss our turn, we make a U-turn. Right? Sometimes we got to slam on our brakes if we're going a little too fast and the light turns red. Sometimes we accelerate a little bit too fast, right? Off a stop, and you accelerate too fast. You're like going, okay, I can't do that, right? I'm going to get a speeding ticket. So every single day when you drive a vehicle, you are in the process of correcting yourself, but yet it doesn't bother us because we're so used to it. Kind of a corny, stupid maybe analogy, but the reality to it is that is no different than any other problems that you acquire in the process of growth, right? As we say, success is not convenient. It's not just going to show up, right? Remember when you were, learning when we got a learning permit at 15 and your mom and dad put you in the car and you're driving the car and you're like scared and, you're hitting the brakes too hard or you're going too fast or you're turning too sharp, or mother or your father said, no, you can't do it that way and, do this way. I remember when I was teaching my kids to drive, man, that was that was fun. But you know what? Now they're great drivers. But then I can only imagine what my children went through having their dad sit next to them going, no, you can't do that. Or what are you waiting so long for? Or why did you slam on the brakes? Or why are you going so fast, right? And go back and kind of relate to the problems that you felt there were. Many of you guys had arguments with your parents. My kids did with me because I was a little scared and unsteady in that process. So understand you're growing through the process to make yourself a better driver as you're growing through the process to have a life that you want to achieve that you don't have yet, if that makes sense. So what are you willing to do? What are you willing to give up in order to stay with the process of growing your life, your business, your process? Because every person pretty much deals with the same issue, but yet a majority of the people actually quit before they ever accomplish the goal. It's fun because, and I've talked about this in sales training projects before, is that right before you have success in something. One problem shows up, another problem shows up, another problem shows up. And right before you succeed, you throw in the towel. This isn't worth it. And you know what? I can tell you for many, many, many years in coaching different people in the industry of real estate, I've learned one thing, and that there are so many great talented people that could go so far and do so well, and yet they just can't take the pressure of the issues and the lack of success. I was watching something a little bit on this topic, and I was listening to Tony Robbins, and he talked about writing out the problem that you have, actually sitting down and just writing it out and saying, this is the issue. And then he says this, and I love it because I think it's really great. And he says, if you write down 3 solutions to the problem that you have. Don't write out one problem because it doesn't give you any options to make a choice. If you have two, you're like, okay, I got 1 or I got 2 or whatever. But if you write 3 things down, you're going to write 3 things to solve or to think about how to solve the problem. How do you solve the problem? Write them out, dissect them, look at them, play them through in your head. Take it outside of yourself, meaning don't let it fester in your own brain. Write it down and kind of put it on paper and look at it from a distance, right? Don't just keep it in here, but look at it on a piece of paper and go, okay, what is this real issue? What is this real problem? We used to do, I haven't done this a lot for a while, but I used to do it a lot back in the day, but I haven't done it for a while, is sitting down for like an hour every day just in alone time and writing down the things that you'd like to accomplish and then writing down some of the obstacles you think that are going to come about. That way it's no surprise when it actually shows up because some sort of problem is going to show up, right? But writing down about how you think you're going to handle it. How long are you going to fester or allow it to fester inside of you before you actually take action towards it? The next thing I want to say is this: make the decision quickly. I think a lot of people, what they do is they get a problem, they think about it, it paralyzes them actually, to be honest with you, is it actually prevents them from doing anything positive moving forward because they're so handicapped by the thought of the problem or issue that they're dealing with. My advice is, and I think it's probably the thing that I learned the most from my mentor, and that is you have to make decisions quickly. When a problem comes up, you got to make them quickly. And typically what I mean by that is 5-10 minutes. If you can, make a quick decision. Most of the time you'll make those decisions and they'll work out for you. But if you do make a calculated decision in a quick amount of time, then you're just forced to have to make a different decision. But one thing you know is the first one you made wasn't the right one. You just make another one. That's all life is, by the way, is making decisions. So I would say this: make a decision to solve the problem to the best of your knowledge, but do it very quickly. You don't want that festering in. And what happens is, watch this, most of your energy is spent thinking about the problem, agonizing about it, telling everybody about it, spreading the negativity to other people. And then you get to a point where it's paralyzed you so much that you just even get fearful to even move forward with anything you're trying to accomplish or whatever it is that your dream was, your excitement was. When you started this, go back to how excited you were over the decision to do it and make a decision quick. What I need everybody to hear this is if you're doing anything that's difficult or out of your comfort zone or something you don't know, problems and issues are always going to show up. Don't ever not anticipate that every dream, goal, and something you're trying to accomplish, there will be a lot of issues that are going to side rail you from the original vision you had. And now you're putting yourself in a position where all of a sudden, I didn't see that coming. Oh, that's not going to work. Oh boy, I miscalculated that. You know, I had one recently. I have a relationship in another business venture where I had this, I don't know, I'll call it a pie in the sky kind of idea that things were going to work out a certain way. And there was a lot of money involved in it. There was a relationship and a partnership. It was I thought anyways, I made a huge mistake, but that it was very detailed and lined out. And after, 8 or 9 or 10 months in this relationship, I realized that it was very south. It was not going in the direction I wanted it to go. And I reflected a lot on the issues that I've had or having, where I made my mistake. So I'm like, man, I don't think I want to do this anymore. I was paralyzed by the problem. And I'm like, man, Do I really want this headache? And then I had to go back and I had to look at this and go, does this ultimately accomplish my goal because I have a problem and it's stopping me in my tracks? How do I get excited about this again? And how do I focus in on what I originally was trying to accomplish? And just because I built a relationship with somebody that I thought would go differently doesn't mean it doesn't work. It just means how I approached it the first time caused some problems that I had to navigate away from. And what I do know is this. What I do know is that I had the wrong partner. What I do know is that I made some decisions that were not the right decisions at that particular time for this particular relationship. But what I also know is I'm still excited about it after I was paralyzed for a while and kind of bummed out a little bit. I also realized that the dream is still there. And so I can do a couple of things. I can retreat and say, well, that didn't work. Or I can recalculate and go, hey, I'm going to come at it at a different angle. I'm going to look at it in a whole different manner than I ever looked at it before. What I do know is I cannot do it the way I did it. So how do I seek out a solution to ultimately still accomplish the goal or the dream? Now, don't get me wrong. There was lots of issues, a lot of problems, right, as the topic goes. A lot of problems moving forward over the last, let's call it the last year, right? Just less than a year. Lots of issues, lots of problems that I had to solve to get to a certain point. But when I got to a certain point, I just realized, hey, I don't think I'm ever going to solve this issue in this particular relationship. So I have to regroup and figure it out. And I have. I'm regrouping. I've hired a coach, then a different kind of relationship to help me understand that process. And that's not going to come without problems also. But the goal and the dream has to overpower the problem. I can't allow myself to dwell in it. What's really sad about this a little bit is I had really, sold my wife on this idea, and she was a little reluctant, to be honest with you. she was like, I don't know, this sounds a little, like probably not the right direction in this particular field with this particular person. And I was just gung-ho. I was sold on it. I was, had that vision and I'm like, this is going to be great. This is going to be fantastic. Well, I got slapped in the face, beat down, and went, okay, honey, you know what? You're right. I was wrong. I apologize. We need to refigure this thing out. It probably cost our family lots of money, but it's not going to stop me, right? I'm going to keep moving forward because I feel 100% that the goal that I've set is way more important than the obstacle. And this is kind of where your kind of competition quits, right? I was asked a question years ago when I was in the real estate industry about how when there's days you don't feel like getting up or you feel defeated and you're tired, how do you get up and continue to keep pounding on that rock and hitting it hard and getting to work and doing the job when you just don't feel like it? And the answer I gave, and I'll share it to you, is that's the day that all your competition quits. And so what motivates me to continue to keep moving forward, even with this topic of this particular business and adventure that I'm going into with this other person or have been into, is that because it didn't work out this way, the way I had originally anticipated, doesn't mean it doesn't work. It just means that success was not convenient, and it's forcing me to navigate and behave in a manner that allows me to be successful the right way. All I'm being told right now is, hey, man, I love your vision. This is what God's telling me. Your vision's great. We're going to accomplish it. It ain't going to be easy, but anything worth having is never easy. Anything worth bragging about, anything that makes you special, anything that makes you stand up and allow people to pay attention to you and, man, that person's really great, or what an amazing athlete, or what an amazing business owner or CEO or CFO, or what a great entrepreneur, right? Or whatever it might be. Anybody who recognizes that in you, what they don't understand is the backstory. Like, what did it take? How much pain, suffering did it take for you to have that opportunity to be that person that somebody admires? And so here's the message, and I'll end it with this. As we have our podcast, that success is never convenient. The message that I have today, and I will continue to keep giving this message to everybody that wants to pay attention to it, is our job is to help people grow as entrepreneurs, as leaders, as family men or women. Our job is to get people to continue to keep improving. That's the purpose of what it is that we're doing here today. It's helping people the best way we can. If we hear one little message that says, man, I was feeling defeated today and I heard this video and thank you so much. And I get a lot of great responses on all my YouTube channels. And so thank you for all of that. But Our job is to continue to keep providing our life experiences for those people who are starting off trying to figure it out and giving you a word of encouragement that says, just do not quit. Today is not your day to quit. Guys, I want to say to everybody, thank you so much for watching these videos. I appreciate it. It totally empowers and makes me, it kind of fills my bucket with that I'm contributing back to other people. And I just want to say thank you for watching the video. I will continue to keep bringing those to you. If you watch them, great. If you don't, that's fine too. But I just want to let you know that you have to continue, no matter how difficult it is, to solving problems, because if you're going to do something significant, problems will show up. Everybody have a great day. If there's any topics or any conversations you would like me to film, please write in the comment section below. I will film as many comments and talk about as many things as you want. I actually research these topics, so it's not like I'm creating them on my own. I go in and spend hours and hours researching these topics so I can bring you things that I think are relevant. I hope everybody has a great day.